My code's looking pretty good now. I have the output that I want, so the table is looking fine. And now I'm just going to take a look and see if there's any way that I can simplify my code further. As I look at this large for loop, I can see that there's a bunch of if-else logic in here that's making these for loops a little bit hard for me to read. And if it's making it hard for me to read, then it will certainly be hard for somebody else to read who comes over and looks at this, 6 months from now when we're trying to find a bug in this code. Hopefully there's no bugs. So I would love to make this easier to read. So I'm going to look through to see if there's any place where I can clean up a little bit. And what I notice is both of these if-else tests are about I being equal to 0. And if you think about how the for loops are operating, this for loop is starting at 60. It's going down by 5 each time. So that means we'll have like I equals 60, I equals 55, 50, 45, 40, etc. And every time through this I loop, we're going to do this test. And every time it's going to be false, and we'll go down to the else until the last time. So the same thing's going to happen in the J loop. So except we're going to do this test a lot more times because J is running so many more times inside each version of the each time through I. So every time through those times, we're going to do this test, and except for the very, very, very last row, we'll go into the else. So that's a lot of code that's running that we know is going to be false most of the time. So for both of these reasons, I would like to move the I equals 0 special cases out of this for loop entirely and put them below. That is, I would like to print out most of the table except for the very last row. Because the very last row is a special case, so I'm just going to split it out. When I is equal to 0, I'm going to take that out of here. Great, so let me take out those things and then I'll kind of do some cleaning. I'm going to stash them down here for now. There was that one, and here's this test for I is equal to 0. I'm going to take that out and put this here and just remind myself that this was inside the J loop. It was inside J loop. Okay, now that I have removed the ifs, I no longer need the elses, so I'm going to do some triple clicking to select some lines so that I can do some deleting. And then I'll use Shift Tab to line things up the way they should be lined up. Triple click, delete, triple click, delete, and this all can come over a little bit with Shift Tab. It's like I grabbed something I shouldn't have grabbed. And that one can go back. Okay. Pretty good so far. Now, if this is supposed to be except for the very last row, then that means that I need to not go down to 0. I need to go down to only 5. And then I'll take care of the I equals 0 case down here. I don't have to test for I equals 0 because if I made it down here, I know that I is equal to 0. So my last time through this loop, I will be 5, and then I'll subtract 5 from it. I will be 0. It will fail this test, and we'll be down here. So we know logically that if we're here, I must be 0. If we're here, I is equal to 0, and we can print the last row. So I don't need to test that. I know logically the only thing that could be true is that I must be 0 right now. Do some lining up of code, Shift Tab. This was inside the J loop, so I'm going to need to do it again so that there's something to print here that is understandable. So I'm going to triple click and copy this so that this becomes inside the J loop. Again, I know I equals 0. There's no need to test for that. So here's my final. This just prints the last row. Prints a bunch of lines, prints 5 spaces to line up that last row, and then just prints those J headers. Save and build. Oh, except for one print line at the end, which I need. It looks like this is pretty good, so I can add that right here. And now I'm really done. So I think this reads a little easier. It is a little bit less code, I guess, but mostly it's easier to navigate the for loops for me because I don't have to climb in and out of the if and else's, and then I know that this is a special case. Also from the standpoint of how much time does this program take, it probably takes a tiny bit less time because I don't have to test that if-else every time through this for loop and every time through this for loop. So I am saving some execution time as well by doing it this way.